WhatsApp, it's 0809 4440981. Twitter, Smooth981FM. I want to read from you on Twitter today.
We're also streaming live, and we'd love to get your comments on the live stream on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. If you're already on the app, just search for Smooth981 and you'll be able to find all of our content right there for you, especially if you subscribe.
That's right. And Mr. C is in for analysis. Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Shopper. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Lagos.
All right, let's get the show started. Vanguard newspaper. New Electoral Act will guide conduct of 2023 elections. Senate Committee. Now, the Deputy Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Olalekan Mustafa, has assured Nigerians that the conduct of the 2023 general elections will be guided by the Electoral Act 2022. He gave the assurance when he led other members of the committee on a courtesy visit to Governor Sheyi Makinde in Ibadan.
Okay, thank you, Victor. So very quickly, Senator Mustafa paid a courtesy visit to Governor Makinde, and he did explain or reiterate that the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 will guide the conduct of the 2023 general elections. Now, there's really no news there because every election is governed by the provisions of the subsisting and existing Electoral Act at the point in time. So basically, it's a reassurance, but I'm not sure why he had to make this reassurance because the old Electoral Act has since been repealed by the passing into law of the Electoral Act 2022, and it is this provision, it is the provisions of this act that will guide, like I said, the conduct of the election. Now, it's important to note that there's provision for electronic transmission of results, and he did allay to this fact when he said that in the past 2 or 3 elections, even before INEC formally announced the official results, everyone had a sense of who had done what and who had gotten what. So it was no longer like the old days where 2 days, 3 days after there's a lot of suspense, there's a lot of intrigue. And take your mind back to 2015 when President Buhari won his first term. There was a lot of intrigue as to whether the PDP actually lost that election or had won. But now with the recent elections, Anambra, Oshun, and the last one, we pretty much knew where the election was going. So it was pretty clear.
Similar to what the senator was saying, he was talking about electoral transparency and perhaps no longer no more ballot snatching will be permissive. Also, electoral transmission of results will be seen in 2023. It has not been done in any of our previous elections before. Now, he's saying that the electorate should insist, because you might get to some polling unit and they tell you that, you cannot be accredited and all of the other things that we've seen in previous elections. So the voters must know that after voting, you demand that, they could send the results directly to the server from your polling units.
You're very correct, Victor. And I think it was in Osun State. There were a few polling centers where the INEC officials claimed they didn't have data or access to data or internet services. And right there on the spot, people volunteered hotspots, volunteered data, and they're like, look, listen, we're here. You need to transmit the results. Now, what this does is it eliminates to a very large extent ballot snatching. So what is the essence of ballot snatching? People finish voting before it can be counted, you take off with a box, then you come back and announce results. But now, they're counting the results real time. People are taking notes real time. The result is transmitted real time. So of what effect is it to snatch a ballot box when the real-time result is known? It's already on the internet. The real-time result has been sent electronically to the INEC office. So it reduces that bit, but beyond that, the machines have to work. The machines that accredit the voters have to work. Because that is another way that can be used to disenfranchise voters. And it will be seemingly illegal because they just say, hey, the machine's not working. It's not our fault. And the law says we need to use it to accredit you. So I like you need to be alive to your responsibilities because you need to be aware also that the populace is more alive to its responsibilities, and the events and the experiences and the horrors of the last 7 years have woken up a lot of people. So it's no longer business as usual.
All right, let's take a look at our next story, which comes in from this day newspaper, and we're back to oil theft, but with from a different angle. Now, oil workers begin nationwide rallies against massive oil theft, and that's going to kick off today. So, this is coming under the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasin, and we heard from its national president, Mr. Festus Asifo, who was addressing journalists in Nigeria and in Abuja, and. So, as we've been hearing a back and forth in the media about what's going on with the case of mysterious incidents of crude oil theft, something that we haven't really taken into account is the workers themselves and what must be the consternation with which they're viewing what has been happening. Now, the president of Pakistan noted that the association could no longer fold its arms after the failure of office consultation, saying that basically they've tried everything they can and now it's down to the rallies, and said that rallies will begin nationwide across the four zones today, and they'll be tagged chasing oil thieves and vandals out of business. He talked about the fact that even oil companies that manage to get through the rain and through the fire and through it all to produce then got as little as 2% of what they pump in from the other end of the terminals. And he's like, this is not something that is sustainable. So they're going to keep on going until the government does something about it. Mrs. C, wow, what would you say to this?
Okay, sure. So let's look at this today from a different angle. So previously, we've always looked at it from the public sector angle, the effects of massive oil theft. Now let's look at it from the private sector. I am personally aware of two leading indigenous oil and exploration firms, exploration and production firms, that have not produced a single drop of crude oil in over 8 months. I'm personally aware. It's just that we're there, I won't give the details. There's another indigenous exploration and production company that is really, really struggling. In fact, for one of these firms I've mentioned, they've asked a majority of their workforce to go home first. That is, there's no work. So really, you just need to go home and pray, hope for the best, right? Now,
That
this,
doesn't seem like a tenable situation.
yes, now this affects Pengasin because the members working in these companies. So you have the exploration production companies, then you have the oil servicing companies that service these companies, and they're all affected. We've been shouting at the rooftops for months, for years, that look, the nonsense going on in the oil and gas sector is inexplicable. The huge military presence in the Niger Delta and all of this is happening. Now they've woken up, there's a renewed deployment of troops, the contracts have been seemingly awarded or renewed, and one of the companies Tompolo has an interest in gets 4 billion a month. Now that contract in itself is an implicit admission of the complete failure of the Nigerian Navy to secure the pipelines within Nigeria. It's as simple as that. Now we're bleeding money on a daily basis, and I don't know why Pengasin wants to do a sit-in. This is one union right from the days of the military. If they go on strike, as stubborn as the military can be, the military wakes up immediately and addresses their concerns. Maybe they need to go on strike. And this is one strike I will support because the nonsense really has to stop. Beyond the infantile and illogical explanation concerning that super tanker that was caught, what has the Nigerian government done? Who has been investigated? How did that vessel enter Nigerian waters? Where were the Nigerian vessels closest to the point of entry? Where were the Nigerian vessels closest to the point of departure? Who has been interrogated? Who is facing disciplinary procedure?
Well, Siva has already said it. He says the security men and women have become multimillionaires overnight. And he said the total collusion is there and this collusion must stop.
Chopper, for years, members of the armed forces have lobbied to be sent to the Niger Delta.
It's a very unsecret secret.
I know a few members of the Nigerian armed forces who were sent there. Now, before they were sent there, they were really struggling. They do a 6-month rotation. Chopper, they are balling. Like your A-list celebrity. So, and we're bleeding money every day. We're losing anything between 700 million to $1 billion every. You cannot begin to imagine the pain. Crude oil leaves your well. It gets to the terminal, it's empty, or you're flushing out water. And you're speaking to the government, and they're looking at you, they're seemingly confused, indifferent, or unbothered. Are they waiting for trouble to break out on the streets before this is done?
No, that's what happens with impunity. It only gets bolder. All right, let's move on now.
We've seen several strikes in this country, from health workers to electricity workers to ASU. Shokwe just talked about which one? Pengerson, field marketers going on strike as well. And let's take it over to the police. In the Punch newspaper, motorcyclists snatching our wives, Oshun protesting constables lament. About 480 police special constables recruited under the Community Policing Initiative in Osun State on Wednesday protested non-payment of their entitlements since commencing work 18 months ago. The protesters bore placards with inscriptions such as, "Pay our salary now, Okada riders are sleeping with our wives, pay us our 18 months salary, pay us our stipends and allowances, and 18 months without kobo," as they marched through the state capital. Mr. C.
Okay, so Victor, it's seemingly hilarious and it's also very embarrassing.
Really?
Now, who are these gentlemen? These gentlemen are individuals who were recruited under the Community Policing Initiative in Osun State. Now, that Community Policing Initiative, I must say, is a very good initiative on paper, and if it's properly implemented, it will supplement the efforts of the Nigerian police in ensuring that security is provided in Osun State and law and order is maintained. However, you announced a program, an initiative. You got people to join. 18 months later, no money. What was the plan from the very beginning? Were you recruiting them into poverty? And I think it begs explanation, it begs thinking. How do you start a program if you haven't sorted out the funding? Are you expecting them to resort to crime and illegalities to survive?
It's quite interesting because they talked about one of the constables talked about the fact that when we asked them for our payment, they said, "No, no, no, you're providing a volunteer service."
But that was not what they were told. I mean, they were going to be paid 70,000 naira when
No,
they
no,
were.
no. They
No,
spent
they
70,000
spent.
for training.
Mm.
Now, I think this is very important, right? I'm not sure anyone in today's Nigeria would volunteer to join the police force in any form or manner for free. So let's rest that. And that explanation is devoid of the truth. Now, clearly, they must be entitled to some allowances. You don't, it's simple. Anyone who works, and it is clear the work from the start was not voluntary, should be paid. Now, it will interest you to know that if further digging is done, we will find out there's a budget. We may even find out that the money has been approved, but for whatever reason, it has not been released.
I'm sorry, but all of this just seems so glaringly obvious. Even just looking at what the state commissioner of police, Wale Olokode, had to say in response to this strike that they embarked on, he said, "You're embarrassing the force with your protest. You need to channel it into the right quarters, right?" But also, let me quote him now: "As long as you're wearing this uniform, we expect you to maintain high discipline as a force man."
I think that's a
Isn't
very
it all?
I think that's a very disturbing and discomforting statement. You haven't paid an individual for 18 months, and then you're expecting what precisely?
Apparently, that's the Osun State government that will handle this because, I mean, if they were recruited from Abuja, their salaries will come from the federal government directly. However, just to add this into it, it looks like the Police Service Commission is still going ahead with recruitment of more constables, while perhaps the ones in Osun State are still demanding 18 months backlog.
Okay, so it's not clear who engaged this gentleman, but the State Commissioner of Police refers to them as forcemen. So if we're to rely on his statements, they're considered to be part and parcel of the Nigerian police force. Now, whether so when he says direct your complaints to the appropriate quarters, please, who are the appropriate
No,
quarters?
these ones were community based. They were recruited locally.
So he didn't even make the effort to say, okay, on your behalf, I will reach out to the appropriate. It just says go and meet them. Come on, we must have some empathy in this country if we're going to move forward.
All right, we'll take a look at this next story that comes in from the Guardian newspaper. Nigerian bandits negotiator Tukurmamu arrested in Egypt. So this is the lead negotiator between the Nigerian government and bandits in northern Nigeria, who claimed responsibility for the, should we put it, happy release of some of the abducted train passengers. Now, he alleged that the Nigerian government had planned to detain him in Egypt, in the vein of what had happened with Sunday Igboho and Nnamdi Kanu. He also, and there were allusions to the fact that he talked about last month having pulled out of the negotiations with the bandits, and basically just saying that, okay, thank goodness I managed to pass out of this all right. But Mr. C, when you look at this story, what comes to mind?
Okay, thank you, Shopper. So there's some interesting points that are hidden within the story that jump out.
Hmm.
Now, one, whatever he's been arrested for now, it's possible that it didn't spring up now. He's been negotiating on he's been negotiating the release of the hostages, for which the federal government will happily take the benefit, right? All of a sudden, he says he's no longer going to be involved in the negotiations and he'll leave it up to the federal government. Fast forward a few days, a few weeks, he's now arrested. Connect the dots. The abductors, terrorists in whatever form or guise, clearly do not trust the federal government or any of its negotiators. They would rather deal with this guy who is a trusted confidant of Sheikh Gumi. And every time he intercedes, people are released. Whether money is also paid remains to be determined or ascertained. Now, what is his offense? Really? Why was he arrested now? He was on his way to the Lesser Hajj. Now, the official statement from the Nigerian government I stumbled onto yesterday's, the DSS specifically, that he's a person of interest. Excuse me. When did he become a person of interest? All the time he was in Nigeria. Did you reach out to him? Did you invite him? Did you speak to him? Did you call him? Why would you wait till he leaves the country for a lesser Hajj that you then say he's a person of interest? Yes, it must be stated clearly, the DSS has every right to investigate. It is the timing that is suspicious. You had all the time here to speak to him, to interrogate him.
Hmm.
And yes, okay, so what's the plan now? Now that he's been arrested in Egypt, is the plan to have him deported back to Nigeria? Is the plan to have him tried and held in Egypt? What exactly is the plan? And what exactly is the nature of your request? Because they're very happy to give us information we don't need. So in this particular instance, give us information we actually need.
All right, we'll be going to some messages in a moment, but Mr. C, I just want to throw this one in.
Okay.
From the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria to sanction airlines selling flight tickets in foreign currency. In fact, Hadi Sirika, being Nigeria's aviation minister, said airlines found culpable in such acts will be sanctioned for selling tickets in foreign currency, as he wraps up his comments by saying, we need their services, they need our market. Yes, there's been backlog, but the CBN is working to make sure that we pay them the backlogs. However, no foreign airline, using the Nigerian route should sell tickets in dollars. Use the Naira.
Right. Okay. Good luck to the minister on this. And it's very simple, right? The airlines are still being owed money, but they only pay 265 million US dollars out of an estimated debt of at least 450 million USD. Now, they're not happy that their funds have been frozen for a particularly interminable long period of time. Now, you now say, so they're trying to mitigate their risk, right? Because the services they provide to you sadly are not denominated in naira. They're denominated in USD. So they're trying to mitigate their risk, and they're saying, look, you want to travel, these are our terms. And I will tell you for free, many passengers will gladly pay the US dollars because they need to travel. So, how do they intend to enforce this? Not forgetting that they are the government and its officials are the biggest users of these services provided by the airlines. And that explains why the cost of the average ticket in Nigeria is more expensive than the same ticket in a neighboring country. So yes, you want to sanction them. How? It's one thing to make threats. Can you enforce those threats? Can you enforce the promises? It remains to be seen. But if you're not going to give them their dollars on time, please don't make statements by saying selling naira because the naira continues to depreciate. So if, for example, a ticket is sold when the naira says 650, then by the time you are remitting the funds, the real value of the naira has dropped to 800 or something. Are the airlines supposed to absorb that loss?
Remittance funds at the official rate.
Even the official rate is not static, and the official rate is irregular, it's artificial. And they do not have enough foreign currency supply to meet demands at the official rate.
All right, let's look at some of the messages coming in.
All right, let's begin with Austin on WhatsApp. He says, wicked politicians are at it again. Nigerians, I would like to inform you of what is going on with our registered voters card. My friend and wife registered in 2011. He went to Amuwodofi to verify his voters card, but to his greatest surprise, both his name and that of his wife had been changed with other names. Both my friend and his wife are Igbos, but they replaced their names with Yoruba names. He told his Yoruba friends what had happened. They told him that this is what his people are doing now. I can give you my friend's phone number to verify this. I don't understand this message, and Mr. C, I'm not sure about this.
Well, so it's something INEC should look into.
Okay.
Because it's possible there might be one or two rogue elements within INEC that up to these tricks. It is possible. Don't rule it out completely, but don't accept
Okay.
it completely.
Okay.
Let them investigate.
Okay.
All right, Saratu says oil theft with all the security operatives present is not theft to me at all. With a ship, for that matter, government and security operatives know what they are gaining. That is why it hasn't stopped till now.
Joseph May is saying it's obvious we're in dire strait with the height of impunity in every levels of governance, giving security contracts to agitators for pipelines. Bandits are paid good, but ASU, medical associations are begging for better working conditions. Yet, I don't care attitude is how a country runs. We're just on autopilot. God save our country. This font Joseph used. It's okay.
Only Pepple can read it. Let's see. We have Yinka Bolu in with a pretty long one. Says heavy deployment of troops in an area does not guarantee safety in that area, especially if guerrilla warfare is at play. The issue of theft of crude oil is a case of guerrilla warfare, and nothing can be done about it. Once again, Shepard, your collusion statement is so deep. Right from the IOCs, the indigenous companies, the military, and those in government solutions, a lot of indigenous companies lack the proper capacity to run an oil exploration company, hence they shouldn't be there in the first place. For those that do have the financial and technical capacity, allow them and monitor them. As for the IOCs, it's time to review their monitoring setup. How can a supertanker just approach an SPM without authorization? It's like entering my kitchen to take soup. He also says, Mr. C, where does the lack of trust of the federal government come from? Did it occur to you that this negotiator probably is a bandit also, disguising as a negotiator? Why go for lesser Hajj after monies have exchanged hands? What if he's got his own share of the bounty and decided to be... You know that if you leave Nigeria, you have to first leave Nigeria before you get to somewhere else, Just putting it out there. Moreover, it's the Interpol that arrested him in Egypt. How would you feel if your next door neighbor is a trusted confidant of bandits and kidnappers? So please let the DSS do their jobs. Whilst Idima Puza says, I blame the oil theft debacle on the petroleum minister. The people responsible for stealing Nigeria's oil are not common Nigerian citizens, but powerful and untouchable government officials and politicians. May God help Nigeria. More messages.
Sam is saying Nigeria is the only country where the president is the minister of petroleum and all the shenanigans happen under his watch. And the police, and on police, this country is still the only country where policemen go on strike, are also unpaid and underfunded. May God help this country. Sam is in Ota.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll take this message from Tony from Ikeja, who says, as usual, every process in Nigeria assumes a different dimension once the government is involved. My wife lost her temporary PVC, and she went to INEC office at Apapa and was asked to leave her name and number. Up until now, they haven't gotten her PVC. Do you know that there's no single computer in that office? How can these guys search for people's PVCs manually at this age and time? Asks Tony.
So worse that you have to search for your PVC by yourself.
From some giant bags that we all know.
So Siemens ex-formers meant for the first phase of the 25 GW power projects are now here. Meanwhile, Peter Obi said Siemens told him in Egypt nothing is happening. The moment he went to Afrezim AGM in Egypt, he but lied he went to study power. It is well. Bayomi, okay. I'm not sure we touched on that story today, but I'm sure it's just giving us an update.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very surprised Mr. C sides with the arrested negotiator instead of the DSS. D from Alausa.
When did you take a side, Mr. C?
I didn't take
Did
a
I
side.
remember that?
All I asked was, I spoke to the timing of the arrest. He's been in Nigeria for a very long time. At no point in time did the DSS express any interest in speaking with him. The moment he leaves the
Regarding
country,
ongoing critical investigations.
yes,
Critical.
the moment he steps out of the country, maybe they felt he was running away, I don't know. And then they then decided he's now a person of interest we need to speak with. But again, you have to place this against the backdrop of the negotiations he's been handling and the negotiations he's no longer willing to handle. And remember, not everyone who was abducted in the March train incident has been released.
Very true.
And so far, he's been the only one who's been able to do that. So I think the federal government is concerned that if he doesn't finish the work he started, what happens to the rest of the kidnapped passengers?
Well, we need to go. We must thank you very much, Mr. C. Great analysis today. Let's do this again tomorrow at 7:30. My name is Pepple.
I'm Shopper Martins.
And at 8:15 today, we have Stone Boy joining us for the Grapevine.
The headlines, the stories, the news.
8:01.
Stone Boy coming in.
He's downstairs.
Stone Boy, you can hear that.
Yes,
Are you serious?
he's downstairs.
Fresh and fresh.
Join us at 8:15 in the Grapevine with Stoneboy.
You can see.